Welcome to the Shift Report, the podcast from MCentric and the MCentric Foundation. MCentric is the go-to information and resources hub designed exclusively for the emergency medicine community. We regularly host key leaders from the field who share their insights and experience. Our goal is to inform our listeners and to encourage you to use what you learn to improve your practice and improve yourself. To learn more, please visit us at mcentric.org. Today's episode is sponsored by Lotus Clinician Wellbeing. Lotus Clinician Wellbeing provides consulting services designed to prioritize clinician wellness in order to provide the best care for their patients. Lotus Clinician Wellbeing supports healthcare professionals with personalized coaching and consulting services for groups and individuals in areas such as career development, leadership, burnout prevention, practice management, and more. For more information, visit lotusclinicianwellbeing.com. Today, we welcome Kevin Spencer. Dr. Spencer lives and works in Nova Scotia. He's a distinguished emergency physician and also an engineer. I think something that all of us kind of think we're engineers because we put things together in odd ways sometimes to solve problems, but he's an actual engineer with engineering training and has turned that into an interesting invention and now business solving a problem that many of us have been faced with, which is getting rings off in difficult situations and trying to solve that problem with ring rescue. And he's going to tell us about that today and tell us about his journey to get to that. Welcome, Kevin.
Oh, thanks so much for having me here, Till. It's great to be on your podcast and learn about the podcast and yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting.
Great. As we see your device, I'm reminded of the many times in my career when I've struggled to try to get a ring or a device off, occasionally having to call either hospital engineering or the fire department to help, and we've all kind of been in that situation. And I presume you have also. So we're going to talk about that a bit, and I think this is something that's going to ring true for many people who hear this. You ended up in emergency medicine, and everybody's got a journey to emergency medicine. How did you end up in the specialty?
Well, I actually started my career as a mechanical engineer. That's what I did in training first. And I worked in Silicon Valley back in the 2000 high-tech bubble in a fiber optics company in Mountain View, California, which is the home of Google. So I had that engineering background originally and decided to pivot and go into medicine shortly thereafter. And so I've been in medicine, practicing emergency medicine for roughly 12, 13 years now. But I've always had that intention to bridge engineering in my engineering background with medicine. And so it's been a really neat opportunity over the last couple of years to create a medical device company and be able to fulfill both those career goals.
Great. And we'll talk about the problem you're solving and also talk about the building a company aspect, because building a company and being involved in a venture is something that many people are interested in and most don't quite know how to get to that. But let's talk about the ring problem just for a second, because I think we all have seen the little ring cutter that's got the little turn key thing. And, we can get simple rings off. The ring on my hand would be pretty easy to get off if I needed to. But you saw that problem, undoubtedly were faced with that problem in the emergency department and wanted to solve it. Tell us how you came up with the idea and about the problem you're trying to solve, and what led you to develop Ring Rescue.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, ring entrapment is a medically significant problem. Easy cases are easy, difficult cases are very difficult. We've all probably had that lived experience in the emergency department of difficult stuck rings. And I certainly have as well over the years. And so really what's interesting, what's really fascinating, I think, is that when rings changed, when the ring materials, ring construction materials changed over the last few decades, from the traditional gold, silver rings that are soft metals that are cuttable with those traditional can opener style ring cutter tools. The newer ring styles with titanium, tungsten carbide, stainless steel, the smart rings like Aura rings, all these different new trends. That's essentially where the problem emerged because those can opener cutters were designed for and intended for those traditional soft metal rings, and they can cut those types of rings relatively easily. But with the evolution of the ring technologies and consumer trends around what they're buying, what they're wearing, those traditional tools, which were never designed for the newer styles, just couldn't keep up. And so what happened is, as you probably know, we were faced with these stuck ring cases in emergency departments. Those traditional can opener type ring cutter tools can't cut those rings. And now we're left improvising. We have no solution. And we're trying to just, figure out how to solve these ring entrapment problems by looking at, off-label use of tools, repurposed hardware store tools on patients. And that kind of became normalized. And there's lots of published content around using a hardware store Dremel on a finger where you improvise a guard for the finger during the process. There's string wrap techniques, there's bolt cutters, vice grips, all kinds of different techniques that have been described. But what I think is really just to step back 10,000 feet for a second, we're improvising with hardware store tools on patients real time. That's pretty unique. Like that doesn't normally happen in modern medicine. And when you kind of look at it that way for a second, you say, wow, that's weird. Like, let's try to fix that. There should be an approach that can solve this problem. It didn't exist, and that was the opportunity for us. And we said, look, this is a common medical problem. We have an opportunity to elevate the standard of care, create capable, safe products. And the goal that we have, and this is a real goal, we want to be the global standard of care for this common medical problem. And that's a fun goal to go after, to try to take a common problem that's globally relevant and solve it. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, so I think some of the detail of this is fascinating. I've had the good fortune to see you demonstrate this device at ASAP, and I think anybody who is visiting a show where you happen to be showing should watch this because you see it real time and see a lot. So you mentioned the Dremel tool. I think people have always kind of thought, oh yeah, I can just go to Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever your local hardware store is, and I can buy one of those things, and that'll get this off as long as I guard the patient's finger. But there's a there's a danger from cutting, and there's a danger from heat. You've as an engineer, you have to figure out all the factors around that. How hot do these things get if people try to use one of those hardware store drills?
Yeah, well, it depends on technique, right? And the problem is that none of these techniques are really validated or reproducible. And a Dremel, which is essentially a high-speed rotary tool that spins 20, 30,000 RPM with an abrasive style cutting disc, and people are familiar with what a Dremel is. There's a lot of friction heat that's dependent on how quickly that blade is spinning, which is very fast, as well as how much pressure you put into the ring, and then whether or not you try to improvise any sort of cooling strategies on top of that. But regardless of how you approach it, you can cook fingers. In fact, people do cook fingers. People cause finger injuries, finger burns with these tools. I've used them safely. I've been able to get through rings and cut them off of people. But I'm good with tools, and I've spent a lot of time as an engineer working on things, and it's just dangerous. It's just not. And actually, the Dremel manual says not for medical use, like serious personal injury result. So they don't even want this used as a ring cutter for obvious reasons. So using hardware store tools on patients is it's medically legally complex. There's not great safety, and the whole medical device regulatory world that exists for patient protection, for healthcare professional protection is circumvented. Like if you're just using hardware store tools for patients and inflict injury, it's outside of all the established mechanisms and norms for patient care and medical device performance and safety. And so I think first and foremost, we should, as medical professionals, use medical device on patients, like simple stuff, right? The problem or the question arises, well, what happens if no device is available for that problem? And that's where I think that pendulum shifted away from those manual can opener ring cutters, which are medical devices. They're FDA registered medical devices, as they should be. It's great. But because those weren't capable at the newer ring styles, it sort of became normalized a little bit to just start experimenting with some of these tools on patients. And certainly rings are removed every day with those types of techniques. And as ER physicians, we like to be creative and we're good at that type of stuff. But there's also harm, and the harm is real, and there's published harm. And so Dremels, whether it's a risk of loss of tool control with a laceration, or whether it's the friction heat that can cause the ring to heat up and cause burns, it's at best uncomfortable for the healthcare professional patient, and at worst, it causes injuries that have significant morbidity and have led to even, finger amputation, surgery, that kind of stuff. So the goal, of course, would be let's come up with a solution that healthcare professionals can use. It's easy, it's safe, it's a registered medical device, and solves the problem. And that's a simple one-liner, but it's a challenging thing to achieve. And that's where the engineering and the medical device innovation space really becomes fun because if it was easy, it would have been solved by now. And it's actually hard to cut titanium and tungsten carbide. And we managed to figure it out until you saw the demonstration. And from ASAP as an example, we had a Dremel on one table with sparks flying, and we had our Dolphin ring cutter, and we kind of did a side to side comparison, which was really fun. And it's also telling as well that, okay, wait a minute, like Dremels and hardware stroke tools on patients, we really probably shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff. And it's a good opportunity to rethink that.
That's great. So you found a problem, and you're working on solving it. So a bit unfairly, I'm going to ask you to boil, several years of your professional life down to a few minutes,
Yeah.
which is the nature of these things. So tell us how you built the device, and maybe, how some things didn't work along the way, which I'm sure are part of engineering development.
Yeah, well, we started actually with something we call the compression device. So even backing up a little bit further. So before we started this company, um, there my two co-founder partners who are both engineers, they actually came up with the concept of shrinking a finger and making a finger skinnier for the purposes of ring removal using external compression. And kind of like if you wear tight socks on your ankles get skinnier. The goal would be is if the ring fits on once fit onto your finger, the problem if it's stuck is because the finger got bigger. And if you can shrink the finger, you can get the ring off. And so that strategy was really what led to our first device, which is the compression device. Um, and that's a neat tool. I mean, it does shrink the finger, and it certainly makes ring removal a lot easier. It's just not the full definitive solution to the problem. So we took that and then we added from there and said, okay, well, now we're providing expertise and we're becoming content experts in this space. What else can we do here? What else does this problem really need? And the answer is there are certainly some rings that just are going to require cutting, whether it's because it's a finger injury, underlying osteoarthritis of the bone, physically won't come off, whatever the reason, we still need to have a tool that can cut these metals. And so that's when we took that challenge on and doubled down from the launch of our first product, the compression device, into let's figure out how to create a sophisticated ring cutter that can do this. And we tried all kinds of different things. I mean, we tried a variety of techniques to do that, and it turns out it actually is pretty tricky to cut titanium and tungsten carbide in particular as well. It's a very hard metal. Um, and so what we ended up doing is try to match, okay, well, how is titanium cut in industry? I mean, people build aircraft out of titanium, like people can cut
Mhm.
it. And so we looked at those lessons and we adopted those to a tool that essentially is something built for your finger. And then we try to modify that out to other metals like tungsten carbide and everything that are the common ring metals. And the answer was we need diamonds, we need diamond grit, we need a good a very well engineered cutting disc. We need to match that with tool speeds and feeds, meaning how quickly we rotate the disc, how much pressure we apply. And then we have to integrate a feedback loop onto that so that real time monitors the amount of energy, the amount of heats that being created. So you don't have that heat because if you do it in an uncontrolled way, you're back where you left off with the Dremel. You just create heat and you're relying on the patient to tell you that it's hot. That's not what you want. You want the device to slow down and adjust real time so you don't get there. And that was our goal. And so we did design the feedback loop around that. So now we've got a mechanical device with a spinning disc that's intersecting with a ring. And now you have a software side as well, an electronic side because it's electronically driven, and a computer chip controlling all of this. So the scope quickly grew from a simple manual can opener um, where this all originated to essentially a mechanical device that's battery driven, powered with software and computer chips, feedback loops to achieve this end goal. And that journey took a couple of years and it cost us a lot of money. But we figured it out, and that's super cool.
That's great. So I'm sure there was trial and error makes it sound almost too simple, but there's lots of trial and error
Yep.
in developing this. And you're really turning something, the element of trying to cut a hard metal is one thing, and then trying to cut it on humans adds an element of regulatory safety and other issues that I'm sure are challenging. You now have a device that is safe for human use and effective, just which is the definition of a good device. Um, how is the tell me how your growth is going and how the business is working now.
Yeah, so there's three sides to this, right? There's the clinical side, that the physician, ER physician side of it. There's the engineering technical side, and then there's the business side. And all three of those things are in their own realm, like substantial projects. The clinical needs, understanding that, solving that, doing the mechanical engineering design to fulfill those clinical needs. But then, your question on the business side, that's a whole different thing. And so from a business perspective, I'm very proud of what we're achieving. We have 18 people that work in the company now. We have a board of directors with high level med tech advisors, and that's really important because I don't come from the business world, and we need those business experts to help us out, and we learn along the way. So surrounding ourselves with really good people that really know these different parts of the business journey is super super important, and that's been a big part of it. So our growth, I mean, we launched the ring rescue kit in September of 2022, and that's the kit that includes the compression device as well as the dolphin ring cutter in under one kit. So it's intended to be the one-stop solution for stuck rings, and that's been
Mhm.
shipping since September 2022. Since then we've sold over 1,200, I think we're up to over 1,300 product kits sold. We've got great customers, and this is across North America. Customers include like Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Duke, Cedar-Sinai, like Mount Sinai, lots of those top brand institutions across the United States, and fire departments as well, a bunch of fire rescue stations, EMS, some urgent cares. So uh, ambulatory surgical surgery centers, lots of even jewelry stores. So lots of places
Mhm.
see stuck rings. Correctional facilities is another one that we didn't really appreciate going into this. It turns out that whenever somebody goes into jail, they have to get their rings off, not surprisingly, and that can become a problem. So there's professionals all over the place that manage stuck rings, and so we've been really happy with our progress to date, mostly starting off in emergency departments, but with all those other verticals I mentioned as well, starting to gain traction too. Um, and so yeah, it's been a busy couple of years, and really, as I mentioned earlier, our goal though is to be the global standard of care. We think we think we have the best product in the world, and our goal is to really take this onto the global stage. So with North America traction, we're intending to go global here in the near future, get into Europe and some of these other regions, and just build the business out and try to get this product everywhere. But so far, so good. So far, so good.
It's interesting, and we were talking before we started recording about interest in what you're doing. There are lots of people who would like to do something different. I think, and I appreciate your modesty about the work, but there's a lot of hard work that goes into this and probably a lot of frustrations, a lot of long nights, and things that maybe didn't go so well. You probably have had interest from others. There is, a phenomenon in emergency medicine about side gigs and finding outside work, and there's an entire burnout problem that we work on with our M-Centric Foundation, trying to help with wellness. You seem to have found something that is interesting, and no doubt you've been approached by other physicians who are interested in how you're doing what you're doing and maybe wanting to be involved. What are you hearing from others who are interested in growing with you?
Yeah, I think it touches on a really important topic of essentially career fulfillment, right? In the medical space and emergency medicine. And it's a challenging work environment. It's challenging for all kinds of reasons, system pressures, patient pressures, there's night shifts, there's weekend shifts, all of that. Um, and I know there's a lot of folks seeking career fulfillment and looking for opportunities to build out their EM practice in ways that augments that. And I would say that, career fulfillment through innovation, it's a real thing. I've certainly had a lot of fun with this. You're right, it's hard. Like there's nothing easy about trying to, in fact, the odds are against you. Statistically, you want to start a business, the odds are against you. So, going into it knowing that it's going to be difficult and doing it anyway is fun. There's fun on trying hard things. And we've actually had a lot of people try, physicians and others wanting to become part of this journey as investors in our company. And that's because they're interested from an investment perspective, but it's also really, I think, largely also because people are interested in getting involved with that innovation journey, that startup journey. And it's fun and it's exciting to try to change norms and grow a business, make a mark on the field of emergency medicine. And this one little topic of ring entrapment, there's lots of places in emergency medicine that you want to innovate, you want to improve upon. But this is just one niche thing that didn't have a solution, that where people were using hardware store tools on patients that we've taken, we've owned, we've created an exceptional solution, and we're building around that. And that's a fun journey to be part of. And so um, it certainly inspired me, and it's a lot of work. There is no question about that. There is no end um, to the work. I think that would be the same for probably any startup company where you started, it's your journey. You want to make it successful, and the hours are nonstop. But I do think it is fun when it's a journey that and a challenge you put for yourself. And when you're trying to do hard things, we all know that. We went into medicine. Medicine's hard. There's fun to training, to trying difficult things, to succeeding. And I would encourage anybody who's interested in contemplating these types of ways to explore career fulfillment to take a close look. And there's a bunch of folks now that are getting organized. I mean, your podcast is a great example of that. Patrick O'Malley, who's an EM doc innovator, he's done a bunch of really cool stuff recently with Facebook groups and different platforms to connect people in EM who have these similar mindsets. And I would encourage you to get to know some of these folks. ASEP this year which is where I met you, Till, had an innovation forum. This is There's like a significant movement going on that is accelerating over the last couple of years. And even since I've been involved with this over, we'll call it 5 years now, it's accelerating, and it's a really cool time right now. So for folks that want to get involved with something non-clinical, find some career fulfillment in other ways, it's out there. You're going to have to take some risks, and you're going to have to, go out on a limb there, but that's also kind of what makes it fun.
Yeah, I think, and you have gone out on a limb and you've built an elegant product that does solve a problem that all of us have seen. And it's sort of, when you step back from it, you think it's one of those things where you think, why didn't I think of that? But the why didn't I think of that is because I'm not a mechanical engineer and I don't have your savvy and all the skills. And I think this is something that I see growing, and I think many people see growing. What do you see coming in the next couple of years for ring rescue?
Well, I think for us, we've created the product, we're evolving it and growing the company, and we like to just grow that to be the global brand for this problem. So that's pretty straightforward vision. I think for us is it's a big world, and there's a lot of people still using Dremels and string wraps on patients, and let's try to elevate them and their institutions to a medical device offering that's built for purpose that solves a problem. So there's a lot of work to be done there. I think even broader than that, though, is what are the next frontiers, right? So for people listening, like when the iPhone came out, there was a massive opportunity for apps. We're all comfortable with apps. There's bazillions of apps now, but when the iPhone came out, it created a platform for new technologies to elevate how we operate every day. I think it's pretty obvious, but AI is a massive, massive new trend right now. ChatGPT, the tools around AI, and how that can change our workflow, how that can improve our environment. So that is, as I see it right now, the big next frontier that we're just stepping into. Um, and it's pretty exciting. The opportunities that we haven't even thought of, like, why didn't I think of that? Like, there's so much of that right now with that toolbox, applying that toolbox for the day-to-day stuff. That's going to be pretty exciting. We're going to see some really cool tech coming out of that. That's going to massively impact how we do so many things in our what we thought was normal is going to change, and that's pretty cool. So on the ring rescue front, I mean, we've got a very clear goal. We're very focused and intentional with where we want to take this business and this product. And that's I think focus is super important to deliver and execute well on a plan, create a good plan and execute on it really, really well. And that is I think that is on track, and I think that we are going to provide that ubiquitous product for stuck rings. People, it'll be the Kleenex of stuck rings. There's a stuck ring, go get the ring rescue kit. Wherever you are, that's where you want to get to. It's coming along. That's pretty cool. Um, and whether it's a niche mechanical problem like ring entrapment that became a problem because rings changed, or it's something else in our professional lives or our personal lives that there's an opportunity to iterate on, to improve upon. What you realize is that as the tools around us evolve and change, we can now apply those tools to problems that we couldn't before, and the tools allow us to innovate those problems. And so that concept of, why didn't I think of that? I love that. That's a super fun concept. I love it when people say that about
Mhm.
your ring rescue, and I think there's going to be a lot of that coming up with AI and some of these other tools that we can all dive into or lean into and learn about and get involved with. There's going to be a lot of cool opportunities.
That's great. The downside of an audio podcast is that we can't see the ring rescue in action. So if people want to learn more about what you do and what your company does, how can they find you and ring rescue?
Well, I hope you just go to your local emergency department with a stuck ring and you find us. But if we're not quite there yet, so you go to ringrescue.com. It's our website. Of course, we've got lots of content on there. We're really trying to build out our social media channels as well: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. YouTube channels. So we're really trying to be all over social, and actually we try to share really fun and interesting cases too. There's an ER physician, Adam Goodcoff. He's got a really interesting social following with over 2 million followers and 800 million combined content views. Just an example, I mean, he's helping us out now. Before Adam, our Facebook channel would have like 1,000 views on a video or something. He put one up, like, not paid content. He just built it differently. He just built the content differently, and it hit like 1.5 million views in a couple of days. So it goes to show you how folks understand digital media and the content space can really elevate that game. And I would love it if people would go onto our social channels and follow us, learn about our journey, just learn about our company and us as a team. We're also at ASAP and NAEMSP and ENA and a lot of the big trade shows. If you're ever any of those shows, come on by and meet us and cut a ring. I'll give you a tungsten carbide ring to cut, do a demo. So you can find us at the different shows, social media, website, all that kind of stuff.
Great. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us and sharing more about ring rescue and what it's done and what it will do. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks again for having me. I'm looking forward to listening to the podcast, and thank you for everything you're doing, Till. It's great.
Great. And thank you for joining us in this installment of our M-centric podcast series, The Shift Report. And special thanks to Dr. Kevin Spencer for sharing his important insights. For more content, networking, and innovation in the world of emergency medicine, please visit mcentric.org. And another thank you to our sponsor, Lotus Clinician Wellbeing. Learn more at lotusclinicianwellbeing.com.